What's up, everybody?
Yeah, another good evening.
It is, man. We got a fun one tonight. We got a guest. We always like our guest episodes.
It's been too long since we had a guest.
It has. We just been in that grind, and I've been wearing Mike out to get him on here. Now here he is.
You have. I've been hearing all about it.
Yeah.
And finally here.
Yeah, Micah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to doing this. This will be fun.
Man, yeah, I think we'll have a good time. Before we get into it, we need to highlight Agzaga.
Yeah. Check out our friends, agzaga.com. Y'all know that. Y'all been listening. They are your online ag retailer. The Belknap wrap is always, you're never going to beat those deals, but check out all the other good stuff.
Yep.
The sprayers, the Flexzilla hoses, and the best part,
You got to use that code TALKDIRT, all one word, all caps, get 10% off.
Yep, 10% off those already good deals. Check them out.
And if you're watching, hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave us a comment below, let us know what you think of the episode, and leave us a rating and a review. Guys, we need the rating and reviews.
And how many are we away from the ghost
we're
pepper
still a long
challenge?
way away. We're like 100 away from that.
But y'all got a month and a half still.
Yeah, if y'all want to see us eat a ghost pepper on air, that was what we told them. We said if they get us to a total of 600 ratings between Apple and Spotify by Halloween, then we will eat a ghost pepper on air.
Yeah.
And you need 100?
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna get that after tonight. We're gonna be in good shape.
Yeah.
So if you get it, you've got to eat the pepper.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On air.
I start cleaning the pepper then,
Yeah.
boys.
Now let me. I said
we're
a
just
cut.
We're just eating,
Okay.
we're just eating a raw pepper.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I got them in the fridge. I got like 8 on the vine today. I went out there and looked. Man, they are some mean looking
Put your
peppers.
gloves on to pick them.
I used a Ziploc bag and I put it in the bag. You can't touch them with your bare hands. Have you ever had a ghost pepper?
I have not. No.
They're supposed to be I always give for reference, a jalapeno is 2,500 on the Schofield chart. A ghost pepper, I think it's either 1 or 2 million.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
it's the Carolina
not even
Reaper.
comparable to a
No. And I've had jalapenos before. I'm like, that's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Well, jalapenos vary quite a
Yeah.
bit. Like some of them are super mild and some aren't.
Yeah, Dad had some that they were hot.
Hudson was at a hunter safety course here in Covington 2 weeks ago, I guess.
Yeah.
And they broke for lunch, and one of the instructors has a garden, and he brought some peppers, and nobody was getting any. I thought, man, this guy picked them for this group.
Yeah.
And so I said, man, I'll eat some of them. He said, oh, heck, you're going to get you some. So I got 2, and I go sit down, and I'm just nibbling at it. And then he comes back, here, man, get you some more. Well, I didn't want to tell him no. I said, sure.
Yeah.
So I took a couple more. They were hot.
What kind? Where were
I don't
they?
know if they were hot, but I couldn't act like they were hot because my son was with me.
Yeah, you got to be tough.
And that's right.
Yep.
So after I got done eating, I said, son, I'm going to go work on my phone for a little bit outside. I'll be back. And I went outside, and I had a bottle of Pepto-Bismol. And I knew milk would kind of fix that. So I took a shot of Pepto-Bismol.
Did that help?
It did help.
What color were they? Were they orange?
No, they were green.
Green. I bet it was jalapenos.
It may have been. It got hotter the more you got into
Yeah,
it.
you never, man. That's what, like I said, jalapenos. I have eaten jalapenos that are like not hot at all, and then I've eaten some that they surprise you. They surprise the crap out of you. So yeah, well, that's what we said. If we get to 600 overall between Spotify and Apple, we will eat a ghost pepper on air. So
That's going to be interesting.
yeah, it will. It will. Hey, and before we get in,
y'all got to leave the reviews.
Yep.
Get on there and leave the reviews.
before we get in too deep too, man, I think they might can see this awesome shirt I got on here. I got to show this thing off, man. Oh, let me stand. See if y'all can read this. I'll zoom in on it.
We're getting political tonight.
Yep. There, you can kind of read that. Micah, tell us who this is.
Tom Bailey, he's running for school board in Collierville. He's an awesome guy. UT grad.
Yep.
He's a Collierville native, and he's got an awesome story. And he's probably one of y'all's biggest fans. He asks me all the time, have you talked to Logan? What's Logan doing?
Yeah.
And, man, just a great guy. Got some kids that are in school now there, and just a very personable, very humble. In fact, the first time you meet him, it's just a special bond. I promise you'll have that. But he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Running for school board out there, and a dear
Well, there
friend
you
of
go.
mine.
Running for school board in Collierville.
He is. Yeah.
So there you go. If we got any guys
our
in that
listeners
area,
in that district, Tom Bailey.
yep, send a vote in for him. Hey, man, I like the shirt too. It's super soft.
I told
Good
him what I was
shirts.
doing tonight, and he
Yeah.
said, come by come by the van. We had a thing last night for him.
Yeah.
And as I was leaving, he had told me, don't forget to go by my van. And he had 3 of them laid out.
Yeah.
I said, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, Tom, I do appreciate the shirt. I like it. I like it a lot.
Absolutely.
So guys, there you go. Vote for Tom. And if you're in Collierville. If you're not, you can just do like the Democrats and just go vote wherever you want to. You got dead relatives, let them vote for him. You know, I mean, hey, it's a free for all.
We're a population of about 55,000, but 110 voted in this election.
Yes, this be the most popular vote of all time.
That's right.
Yep.
Where all these votes came from?
Yeah. So, man. Oh, hey, before too, I got to tell you, I cut some beans today.
Oh, did you?
I did. I actually took my header over. I ain't even serviced it yet. I just threw it on the combine, and I was like, I'm just curious what the moisture is. So I put it on and just ran across the ditch, and I cut like 2 acres. It was cutting about 13% moisture.
That's where you want to be.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
How was it? Was it muddy?
It's a little damp.
Yeah.
I just put the combine in 4-wheel drive, but it was like, I mean, it wasn't just horrible, but it is wet.
Yeah. We got a lot of water. I was talking to my brother, I guess it was Sunday, and he still lives in Lauderdale.
Yeah.
The ponds have been real low, and I asked him Saturday, I said, what's the ponds look like? He said, man, they're still low. And then Sunday night, he said, I guess the groundwater had finally gotten up, and now we were actually accumulating water.
Right.
So, but we were dry.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. We got 8 inches of rain here.
Yeah, I think Keith said they got between 10 and 12
Really?
spots around here.
Man, I think my unofficial count at my house is like 7.4.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Dad was saying 10, but I think that was including, because he said in the month of August we got 1 inch of rain.
I believe it.
He said we got 1 inch of rain, and then I think for the whole month of September he said we were at 10 inches already. So,
and I see where there's something else brewing in the Caribbeans right now. So
Well,
that's a possibility.
I watch those
Yep.
YouTube, guys that forecast stuff. He said, yeah, there's one stirring up down there that I think pretty much said like a week from now. Like it's that far out. But it's like,
I hope we
goodness.
I want us to get our crops out. But man, when you get some moisture in August, September, that's a good thing, especially when cover crops are going to be hitting the ground. I think last year we were so dry, there were some cover crops that just never.
Oh, I had a bunch that just didn't hardly do anything.
Mm-hmm.
The guys went out to check to make sure they were there, and he's like, well, I see the seed on the ground.
But y'all were done cutting beans at like Halloween, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, which I got all beans this year. So I'm like, I'm making rock and roll again, weather permitting and everything. I already got a sensor down on my combine, so I got to fix that tomorrow. 2 acres in.
Yeah.
What was the plant date on those?
Oh, man, those I can tell you right now. Those were the first beans I planted, and I planted those April 16th.
I looked at some stuff today that was planted April 15th. What variety? Was it a 4.4, 4.6?
4.9.
Well, okay, yep.
Yeah.
They were saying today in the thing that I looked at this evening, John Raines sent it out, and he was talking, these were planted on April the 15th, and it was in that mid-4 range.
Yeah.
They caught that summer solstice right at R3, and I want to say that across the board, the plot average was like 66.
Well, this is on some ground that's not very good. Like, it's more to my it's my farm, but it's a poorer ground, and I went out and I kind of cut out in the middle area because I was getting away from the tree lines and stuff, and it got up into the mid 60s. I was actually pretty surprised because some of them didn't look that great. Beans are the most deceiving crop.
Oh, they'll fool you.
Like, I have that same farm 3 years ago. Man, I had beans that when I sprayed the last time, the beans were scraping the bottom of the sprayer. They were huge. And I'm like, these beans, they're going to cut 80 bushel an acre. And I think they averaged 38. They were not good. And
all vegetative, I guess.
Yeah. And these beans here, man, some of them were short. And I'm looking over at the combine, and they don't look great, and they're cutting like 58. And I'm like, wow.
Was it a little bean, or could you tell what size the bean was? I've been hearing reports of a lot of BB beans this year.
I noticed whenever I checked the moisture with my little sample thing, it was a bunch of small ones in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be kind of common.
And I'd say that's probably, I feel like that's got to be from that dry spell we hit. It kind of took away the test weight. I'm curious to see what it's going to be.
Because we were catching rains regularly, then we got dry.
Yeah.
And from the cotton end of it, we needed it. We were getting
we needed
too
much.
Yeah. And I think the yields are going to be pretty good this year. I wish the price would follow.
Ooh, man, me too. Yeah.
But a lot of things have been changed in the last 24 hours with that. I listened to that ag news in the mornings.
Yeah.
And I want to say this morning they were talking about they felt like an uptick in price, but there's so many variables
Yeah.
that move on. Wasn't there a drought or something going on in Brazil?
Brazil, yeah.
Let's say,
Yeah.
was it based on? Yeah,
But I'm curious now. Now you got me curious because they were expecting rainfall in Brazil. So did they miss the rain?
Oh, I don't know.
They were saying that they thought, I think they thought a rainstorm was headed towards Brazil, which would put them like pretty much back where they need to be moisture wise.
But before they announced interest rates cuts today, the stock market in general was so I wonder if that I don't know. There's a lot of stuff.
Dude,
I don't
everything.
understand.
I feel like every freaking thing jacks with the market.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
it's wild how like not even rain, but just forecasted rain
Yeah.
in Brazil affects our commodity price. Which I mean, it makes sense, I guess, but it's like wow, it's like little things. I guess that's one of those guys that trade futures and all that, and I guess that's why they can make the big money, and then of course they can lose the big money.
Yeah.
They understand all those 1,000 different factors that are in play.
It's kind of an industry where something's bad has to happen somewhere for something good to happen to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
else.
Totally,
Yeah.
man. That's what we've said. Like, you hate to, every year when we come into harvest, I'm like, man, I really hate to wish an earthquake on our neighbors over here, down like in South America. But
Because
like,
I've never met them, but I would venture to say that the same growers in South America are probably just some good old boys, just like they are here in the Mid-South.
yeah, I'm
you
sure.
know? And you hate that. I have noticed that in this industry, man, it's a special culture.
yeah.
And I wonder if it's like that in South. I bet you it is.
I would say, I mean, I feel like you're still cut from a similar cloth.
Yeah. I think what really hurts them is the logistics. Their
I think
infrastructure.
they have to truck 1,000. Don't they have to truck like 1,000 miles or some
their
crazy
roads
stuff?
are not good at all. They make good crop. It's just hard getting it, I think, to their grain.
They drive on like the side of like a mountain and crap. But I swear I want to say it was like, I mean, it was astronomically long ways that they have to truck.
And then a lot of times they deal with, which I guess we deal with long lines here too, trying to get dumped. But
so they have the same obstacles and stuff.
Yeah.
What's that? I can't think of the guy's name, but God created a farmer, and what's the guy's?
Paul Harvey?
Yeah, Paul Harvey.
I heard
Yep.
that this morning, and
Yep.
man, I thought, well, that's so spot on. And I venture to say those farmers in South America are just the same ones.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking
I'm
about
sure.
here.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Brazil is the one. I mean, they're the one giving us the biggest run for our money. I think Brazil may be the #1 exporter now.
Okay.
They're kicking butt down there.
Well, and they definitely own half the meat packers that are in this country.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
I did hear a report today, and I didn't know this, that I guess cow production is we didn't need to import any in, I guess, and they just started importing in from.
So we've imported quite a bit this year.
What was the country?
So we import a bunch from. So there's 4 major meat packers that control 85% of the market in this country, and 2 of them are Brazilian owned.
Oh.
Well, one of them is absolutely Brazilian owned, is JBS. National Beef is like majority Brazilian owned. They got lots of different investors, but we import a lot of beef, a lot of lean beef out of South America.
Are we not producing enough in the U.S. to meet our needs, or?
Well, and our
Too many damn row crop farmers.
That's right. Them bean farmers.
yes, yeah. Well, our overall cow herd numbers are, I forget what year, but it's like the smallest has been in like 70 years.
Oh, a decrease.
Yeah.
Mainly because of drought, in major, cow calf areas, over the last, 4, 5, 6 years. And then, of course, just with the way the cow's life cycle goes, it takes so long to rebuild. If all of a sudden they've got all kinds of grass and they start buying heifers, and by the time that heifer's bred and has a calf and that calf's mature and ready to go to slaughter it, it takes several years. So it's, getting that's what's been frustrating for the cattle market here lately is the fundamentals are there that cattle ought to be, up, and it's just, and they have been historically good for the last few months, but then they've here in the last 5 or 6 weeks they've kind of
tailed off,
pulled back down. Yeah,
I did hear this morning where a grower, a bean farmer, he put wheat on some poor areas and then put electric fence around it.
yeah.
He had no intentions of harvesting that wheat. He just put his cows on it, and then basically he was using it good for the soil to go through the winter months and the rainy months. So he's taking care of his soil, and then he's growing his cows.
Yeah.
And in return, he's able to take those to the market, take the fence down, put beans in.
Oh yeah, they poop and pee on it.
They're fertilizing it right
Yep.
out there. Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of those guys in the Southern Plains that do that, I forget, but I listen to those market reports. But there's like a certain date where they'll pull those cattle off there and they'll still harvest the grain.
Oh man.
Now, I don't know. I always worried around here, just with our soil types and all the moisture we get through the winter. Like, man, they'll be knee deep, mud. They're tracking it up.
Can you do that? I'm not familiar with the cover crop programs. What you can and can't do. Are you allowed to put?
Oh, like actually grazing on like cover crop.
It has to. I just had this conversation this week with NRCS because I've been picking my brain more and more about doing that, and it's not real friendly to doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you go through the program, which it is funny because it's like this is literally like the best thing you can do.
Oh, it's like the maps you see in 6th grade science class. The cows.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the perfect.
Yeah,
The circle of life. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't get any better. And so, because I was looking at a guy that he plants corn on 60-inch rows and he interseeds cover in the middle. And then he comes in and he harvests the corn and then he releases the livestock out on it. And man, he plants like radish, rye, like all kinds of stuff in the middle. And it's funny, now that the more I get into this like kind of regenerative thing, like it looks great to me because it's like you got corn, tall, good looking corn, and then there's this like lush green centers. And he just literally, they're on 60s and he plants on 30-inch row. What I do 30s. I'm planting a 32,000 population. On 60s, he's planting like a 60,000 population. So he's planting it really thick. So you still actually end up.
But his spacing is
it's
making
spacing.
Up for the seed.
So you still end up with the same amount of corn per acre, just about like at that many plants per acre. I'm not going to say that it yields as well. Because I don't know what the yield is.
Is he flying that on?
He's got an old school. He made like this old planter. He bought like an old little planter thing, and he's rigged it up where he drives through there and he plants it after he's planted his corn.
Oh, so he gets it before the corn gets too tall where he can't run a tractor through it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so he plants it, and oh man, it looks great. And he turns his livestock
out. How's he fertilizing? Is he in furrow?
No, he does not put any synthetic down.
Okay.
This is he's all like regen.
Okay.
So I don't think he does any.
I was thinking that you could do in furrow with that, and
yeah,
that way you're putting it where it needs to be and not trying to.
I think he does. I think he, aside from the cattle that'll be on it, I think he may apply chicken litter.
I was about to say, if he had any,
yeah. But
that makes sense.
But it was pretty neat. It's pretty neat to see. But I don't know, man. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
Oh yeah,
and
even spraying fields, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no. Hey, I found out
you can't use that analogy anymore.
It's true. When we had people saying stuff about skinning a cat because of Trump, they're
actually doing that now.
Springfield.
Yeah, they are eating the cats.
Apologies to our Ohio listeners. If that hits a little too close to home.
Yeah, if your cat has fallen prey to some of these Haitians, it Haitians?
Have y'all seen the TikTok videos where the dog's like laying on his couch and they're like, he hears on the TV they're eating dogs in Springfield. The dog's like,
Yeah, dude, it has been some great memes about that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I did learn. I've been looking into this drone thing more and more.
That's where I was going on to see how that was going.
Man, there's a lot of health specs you got to meet.
Really?
For the thing, you can't have elevated A1C.
To be a drone pilot?
Yeah, you got to go through. You have to have the same physical standards as a pilot.
Yeah, cool. Look, you're a pilot.
But it's unmanned. It's unmanned aircraft. It's just weird. But like, yeah, you can't. Your blood pressure has to be below. They got a threshold, and mine runs hot sometimes. But
So you mean when I fly my drone, I'm out of compliance?
You probably.
No, mine's small enough. You don't have to have a license.
Yeah.
Though, so.
But I fall into specs on blood pressure, but then my cholesterol runs right borderline. And I don't know, my cholesterol might potentially put me out.
Well, even my doctor will tell you, like, cholesterol, they're kind of wondering if that's...
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I told him, I was like, look, man, you don't want me to eat carbs? I'm eating a lot of fat and protein, like bacon and eggs for breakfast every day, buddy, if I'm not going to eat carbs. And,
yeah.
I wonder if there'd be an exception if you're using it on your farm. If I could see if you were
commercial.
Well,
but if you're using it on your own farm, do you have to still meet all those specifications?
I think because you're in the airspace.
And it's because my wife, one of her projects she's had to do in the past, and they were looking at drone, for commercial use and ag and for all kinds of purposes. And it all comes down to, are you using it just for leisure, like to film and just check stuff out, or are you actually, scouting crop with it and or aerial applicating, whatever.
For a profit from somebody else.
That makes a big difference.
I'm just spraying it for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that. Yeah.
You do like gender reveal parties with like.
Yeah, come and fly over and spray blue or spray pink all over them. Yeah.
There you go.
Throw a little Gramoxone in there.
You remember Mason that worked with me? He's in Arkansas now.
Yeah.
And he just had a little boy last week or week before last. And I asked him when they were doing the reveal party, I said, man, are you going to get a crop duster from Arkansas? He's like, nah, I don't know if we're going to do that or not.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Fly through there and then turn on that thing and
just let out a bunch of blue. That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Man, that would be cool. You see some wild gender reveal things. So, well, Micah, tell the people a little bit of who you are.
Yeah. We
people, y'all have gotten
20 minutes and
y'all have gotten a 20-minute preview of him. Who the hell is Micah?
Man, I'm a
renegade.
Yeah, I'm from a small town north of here, Ripley, Tennessee.
Yep.
And I like to tell folks, when you cross that Hatchie River, you cross to the land of milk and honey. And when I was thinking on my way over here, I was like, man, when you tell folks where you're from, you need to tell a little story about it.
Yeah.
And I tell this quite often when I meet folks. I graduated high school in '96 from Ripley, and all through high school, you were always told, man, don't hang out with them Tipton County folks. The Covington folks are bad, and you eventually you believe that.
Yeah.
And because I've heard my daddy, I remember Daddy's in his 80s now, and that was where they used to meet on the Hatchie Bridge and fight and all that mess. And then as I get older, I would say 90%, if not more, of my friends are from Tipton County. So I think I was misled as a child.
So you are a renegade.
I am a renegade. That's right.
Yeah. That's funny.
I'll tell you a story. My brother-in-law, he's a minister of music, and there was a funeral he had to do in Brownsville. And there was this guy, and I don't remember his name, and they were going to meet the Ripley boys on 19 at the county line and fight. Well, something happened in school, and so a lot of the boys at Brownsville got suspended.
Okay.
And so they didn't get to go right after school. They were having to deal with all that. So the guy that didn't get in trouble, he went home to the county line. And he said he got there, and there was, I don't know, 8 or 10 Ripley boys there.
Gosh.
And he said, I'm still going to fight. He said, but I'm going to do it one at a time. And they ended up not fighting.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law did that guy's funeral. And he said that after that day, that group would meet at a coffee shop in Brownsville like once a month and have coffee.
With the one dude?
With the folks they were going to fight. They ended up being friends. So I say that to say there's good folks on both sides of the river.
Dude, and it tells me something that's funny. Dudes, like, we're simple creatures. Like, you can take men that are like, that hate each other's guts, and they could go like duke it out, and then they go buy a cheeseburger together afterwards. It's kind of like once the smoke is cleared, you're like, hey, we actually got quite a bit in common. I feel like women, no offense to our women audience, but I feel like a woman can carry some hatred.
They hold a.
Yeah. They will carry that with them forever.
It's not healthy to hold that all inside for that long.
That's right.
Yeah. There is like two people that I can think of that I would probably say that I hate. And that's about it. I mean, and even them, I'm like, it probably wouldn't take much for me to not hate them.
Yeah. I'm about to say, heck, you sit down and talk with anybody. You can usually
we got
some common ground.
I was gonna say we got more in common than we have in not common.
Yeah.
Once we just sit down and talk.
This is Bobby Lee endorsing Kamala Harris.
I mean, especially when I've yet to hear her do like just a real Southern accent.
Yeah,
she does her accents depending on who
she does. Yeah.
If she was a guest, she'd come here and say, "Hey, how y'all doing?"
Oh, I guarantee you, she would cater her accent to us. Yeah. And she'd laugh quite a bit.
Yeah, and we'd have a good time.
We would.
We
Yeah,
would,
we
that's
would.
right.
It's an open invitation, Kamala.
Yeah.
And I know this would only be your third interview ever, but hey, we'd be happy to do it.
Yep, for sure. So what do you do? Well, hold on. Before we get Micah's in the ag industry. Before we get to that, Micah was a cop. He was a lawman for how many years?
15.
15 years.
I kind of took a different route. I graduated high school in '96 and then went to college for a little bit and then took a break from that. I turned 21 and I was like, man, I'm going to be a police officer. So I did that for the first 5 years was in rural West Tennessee, and then the last 10 years was in Collierville, suburb of Memphis. And, God puts people in your path along your way. I met my wife.
Yeah.
And
did you pull her over?
No. Just ran her tag. No, I didn't do that either.
You're like, she looks pretty good.
But she was friends. Let me back up. I was ready to get back on the farm.
Yeah.
Born and raised on a farm in Ripley, and most of my friends up there, their dads farmed, and I helped them during the season. So I'd been around it my whole life.
Yeah.
Except those 15 years that I was a cop. And so I was like, man, I'm ready to get back. The police world's changing. I've got 2 boys now. At that time I had 1. And it's time to revamp some things. So I was telling her about it. And she had a sorority sister that worked for a company. And the guy that she worked for, his secretary, was the founder of No-Till Farming. Dr. John Bradley.
Okay.
And man, he's been like a second father to me. He introduced me people in the industry, and I'd have never met him had it not been for Michelle.
Yeah.
I'd have never met Michelle had I not been a police officer.
Yeah.
So things don't just happen.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah.
And so it's been a ride. So in 2013, I started in the specialty division. So I learned a lot about turf ornamentals.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And I enjoyed it. I had a guy named Jeff Gordon was my boss.
NASCAR guy.
No. But he was sharp. He knew his T&O stuff.
Yeah.
And he taught me a lot. And I enjoyed it. But I wanted to be on the farm. I didn't want to do square foot. I wanted to figure acres.
Yeah.
And because that's where I'd come from. And so I took a little leave from one company and went and sold biostimulants and seed treatments. And then I came back to this company on the ag side. And I do precision ag for them now. And then in the summer, I'm a crop scout.
Yeah.
So mainly cotton. I do a little bit of beans, a little bit of corn. But I would say 90% of it is cotton. And man, it's I haven't worked in 10 years. I've been in it now for 10 years. And I love what I do, and I don't feel like I've worked.
Yeah.
Now, and some of the guys I work at the office may say, "Well, he doesn't work."
They're like, "Well, there's a reason for that." Yeah.
And I was going to give them a shout out, and I said, "Man, I think I'm going to give my buddies a shout out." And at the office, and they said, "What buddies?" So I don't know why. But they're an awesome group of guys to work with.
Who are you talking about? Yeah.
But when you work with a great group of guys, it's really not work. You're just jumping in there and doing what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I do now. And so this time of year, I'm trying to transition in from scouting crops. We're still doing a little cotton defoliant, and but we're starting to transition into soil samples.
Yeah.
And so we'll run that all the way up till right behind the planter, and then usually mid-April, and then we'll transition from there back to stand counts, crop scouting, and ride that out till. So it's kind of a seasonal. This time of year, we're falling off on one thing, but we're picking up the soil samples right and heavy, and so it's going to be a great year. That moisture was good for us.
Yeah.
Before that moisture, we had made the decision we weren't going to pull any soil samples.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't enough moisture in the soil to get a good reading. And what's the old saying? Bad data in, bad data out. Garbage in, garbage out. And we don't want that. And so this rain here set us up perfect. So as soon as it dries out a little bit, and you guys get your crops out, we'll be right in there behind you and getting things done and getting ready for 25.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Go see how it pencils out in 24.
Yeah. But I will say the key, and this is my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But I will say, man, soil sampling is so important. It's the foundation. You wouldn't build a house without putting a foundation underneath it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to last if you do. To understand that foundation, you got to know what's in that soil. Check that pH, see what's going on, address that issue, and then build from there. And so, if anybody's on the fence about, man, I don't know if I want a soil sample, you need to remember that's got a lot to how your 25 crop's going to do.
It's not somewhere you want to try to cut costs.
No, soil health. We do ours every 3 years.
Yeah.
And we do a rotation. That way we stay on top of it, get lime where we need lime, and go from there.
I heard a guy, what did he tell me? You're never going to save yourself to a profit.
That's right.
And because they were like, man, there's areas you can kind of experiment, try to cut a few costs, but you gotta put it into the crop to get it out. And I guess we were talking a little bit, I think off air or maybe earlier, but just about the regenerative side of things a little bit. Even those guys, they may not be putting synthetic in, but they're still putting in. They've put in to get the ground to the position that it's in. Mm-hmm. They put in by running that cattle on there, doing this, or if they spread chicken litter or whatever. So even those guys, you're still putting in. Mm-hmm. You got to put in to get out. And so,
and you need to know what to put in, and the soil samples will help you make that decision. And you, the best stewards of the land are the farmers. They're the best. Oh. And when I go out and pull these soil samples and we come back, we run them through our system, and we come back with variable rate. I explained this to a guy yesterday. He was asking, like, what's variable rate? I said, man, that's being good steward of the ground. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, in times past, guys would just blanket spread fertilizer across the field. And some spots in those fields don't need it.
Yeah.
And some spots need more. Yeah. So now we're putting it where it needs to be and addressing the crops. We're basically, I always use this analogy. Our system that we use, in my opinion, is like shooting a 308 versus shooting a 8-shot.
Yeah.
Hoping and guessing. We're not hoping and guessing. We're dialing into the field and knowing exactly where to put it at exactly the right time and at exact right amount. So,
and it's funny too that because that's how y'all make me prescriptions.
Yep.
So when it comes time for fertilizer, and I talk to Michael up there on the fertilizer side, I'm like, man, whatever Micah them's prescription is.
Yeah.
I said they got me a prescription because we always talk beforehand. What are you gonna plant here? What are you gonna plant there? I tell y'all my plans, and y'all build me up a prescription on there. And this is where, that day we did the Cargill, the field day thing. Yeah. They kind of asked us questions about fertilizer and different things and kind of our plans there. And everybody, I think, has strengths and they have their weaknesses. And I recognize, one of my strengths, whether or not it's a good thing, is I feel that I'm risky. I don't know that it's a good thing. But I'm the guy that'll plant into 5-foot tall green stuff. Yep. And I'm like, well, God, hope this comes up. And so, but I'll stick my neck out a little bit. And there's other areas where I would say is my strength. One of my weaknesses, I'd say, is I don't quite have the fertilizer stuff down. But that's why I have a team of guys that do.
To say. You got a group that's right behind you. Yep. And Dustin MacArthur is a man. That dude, I don't know if we were taping earlier, but he knows his stuff, and he's an awesome asset to have. And there's been many a times if you always be honest with folks, it goes a long way. And if you ask me a question and if I don't know the answer, I know who to call. And and I got a bunch of Dustin MacArthur's and John Raines and Bob. I got a bunch of guys in this phone that I can call or text and get an answer pretty quickly. And so, like you said, you got a wheelhouse to go to.
Well, and man, I think farmers, it's one thing. We wear a lot of hats, and so I'm guilty of, you don't want to relinquish anything. Like, you think like, well, I'm supposed to know it all. I'm supposed to do it all. And there's a reason ag specialists, agronomists, these things, there's a reason they exist. And it's because, well, like I said, for years, it's just a blanket. And that's where the media demonizes farmers and them, because they're just wasting and they're just spreading all this synthetic fertilizer. It's running everywhere. And it's like, well, what about, my farm is entirely variable rated. Like, everything that I do is variable rate on the fertilizer side. And so it's like, well, I'm not just blanket throwing fertilizer out there.
And I would venture to say 99.9% of growers in our area, if not across the country, are variable rating? Yes, sir. Yeah. They're putting it in the right place at the right time. They're not just blanket spraying. And so, it's... I was telling that guy yesterday about the variable rate, and he said, well, what else do you do? And I said, well, we'll pull yield data. So I'll go out there and collect those soil samples and run our machines and do all of our stuff, and then I'll take that yield data and lay on top of it. Then I can really fine tune. And he's like, man, I didn't know you could do all that. I said, have you ever been in a cotton picker or a combine? He's like, no. I said, it's kind of like being in a jet. There's more electronics in those things than some airplanes.
Yeah. If it's all working.
If it's all working.
It's all working. I was thinking when I was cutting that little bit of beans, I was like, I got to get my iPad charged, put in here. But I think I tried last year, and like half the fields didn't log, and I'm like, what the crap? Because I was going to send you all the stuff. Yep. And I'm like, I don't know where it is.
Are you Gen 4, Gen 5? What's your...
On field view?
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Or on your monitor on your combine. Do you remember?
I don't know.
I sat through a thing yesterday. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Follow up on that one for sure. But that's kind of a. So I'm on the ag side now. I got away from the square. We got to the acreage, and man, it's been a great ride. Well, I'm biased for who I think they're the best. In the country. And I got stories after stories after stories, and I'll share one of them. Last year, my mom was sick in November. And so I needed to be at the hospital a lot. Yeah. And I was there quite. I was at the hospital a bunch. And Dustin and some of the guys I work with, they would call me every day checking on me. Man, you good? I was like, yeah. And I'd ask him, hey, have we got this, and this done? He's like, man, don't worry about it. Yeah. You take care of your family. And so my mom ended up passing. Yeah. And then it was a Monday night. We had visitation, and the funeral service was Tuesday. These guys that I work with, they had a big meeting in Carterville. Yeah. So most of those guys they had to drive all the way to Carterville. Well, I was there that Monday night, and the line was long. And I looked back, and it was all the guys within my company. Yeah, man, that's cool. And look here, man, and I say this, so you can't put a price tag on that. Yeah. That speaks volumes. Yeah. For those guys to get up, go all the way to Collierville and do their meetings. They're tired. They're ready to go home. But you know what? He's one of our team. I'm going by. Yeah. And they lined up, and that's the kind of company that I work for. Yeah. They're the best. Yeah. And it's a special place. And I think that goes back to why I say I hadn't worked. Yeah. I don't feel like I've worked because I'm enjoying what I'm doing, because I'm enjoying who I work with. Yeah. Oh, that is a game changer. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Oh, if you're miserable at work, you're miserable in life. Yeah. But if you love what you do and you got a good support group and you work for a great company, oh man, it's... Yeah, like Bobby Lee hates who he works with. Oh man, I hate that. And he works with his family. Yeah. My brother and my dad, I can't stand them. I hate who I work with. I'm self-employed. No, that does. I cuss myself some days. I do that about daily. But I bet you have more good days than you do bad. Oh yeah, man. Yeah. I preg checked cows this morning. Oh boy. Ooh. I cussed a lot of my coworkers. Yeah. So today was one of those bad days. My employees. No, I still enjoyed the heck out of it. But god dang, they not wanting to get in the chute and yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm glad my kids were far away at school. Couldn't hear you.
Well, that's what it's funny, man. Farming is it's so strange. Like I was thinking this tonight whenever I was on the combine, because again, I still got to finish up. I got that sensor messed up on the combine, but I got in the combine. I had turned it all on, and I was by myself, and I just had gone out there just going to try it out, and I was cutting, and even with the sensor like saying that this thing was off and the moisture was running just a tad high, like I was like, man, it just
Feels good.
It feels good. I'm in the
yeah.
combine cutting some beans, and as I was unloading it, I was like, man, I mean, and just the thought I had, I mean, I was getting on my combine. It's a 680. And I remember as a kid, man, I played with all these tractors and combines, and I mean, and I don't say this anyway. I do not toot my own horn here, but I was like, man, I'm 33. This is my combine. I was like, this is mine. I might go broke this year, but this is my combine. You know, but no, I mean, it's something about it. I mean, and weirdly, I don't know if y'all are this way. When you're scouting, maybe when you're with cattle, maybe I love people. I like interacting with people. I love being alone, cutting beans, and I like being alone a lot. Like when especially, man, if I'm back in a field and I'm cutting, there's nobody around. It's like I'm at about the most peace I can be.
You know, I pull before I soil sample, I use a machine called a dual EM, and I pull it with a John Deere Gator, and I got my monitor here, and I'm running. I got my earbuds in.
Yep. Listening to Talk Dirt to me.
Listen to Talk Dirt to me, and then in between that, George Strait every once in a while.
Yeah.
But man, you know, when you're riding across those fields, and it don't matter how long the rows are.
Yep.
It's just like, man, this is awesome.
Yep.
I used to tell Mason all the time. I said, "Can you believe we get paid for this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
My brother used to always, "Oh, you're going to play in the dirt, but it's fun."
Yep.
I love it. And,
Yeah.
And we learned so much from doing it, and so so that's kind of where I came from and what I'm doing now, and still playing in the dirt and having a ball and loving every minute of it. And
That's great, man. Well,
and at the end of the day, we all just turn back into dirt.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yep.
not to get too philosophical or anything, but yeah, I mean,
I've told Marcy when I go, just chunk me in a ditch.
there's something about that. I mean, the soil is everything.
It is.
That's the whole.
Well, what's the thing? I don't do it, but the grounding where people take their shoes off and just walk around in the yard, I'm not a grounding guy, but I know people. There's something. I mean, I get dirt on me, and there's some crazy stuff they claim, like getting dirt on your skin is
I've
good
heard people
for
talking
you.
about taking your shoes off and walking around barefooted, in the mornings first thing.
Like sunbathing your ass. You know, people do that.
Well, they mean actually your butthole,
Yeah, they do. They lay on their shoulders and have their legs up. Did you know people do that, Mike?
no, I did not. No, I've never seen that in the cotton field.
What do they call that? Yeah, you're going to roll up on some cotton farmer out there. Ooh, man, roll over on a stave or stalk. That wouldn't feel very good, man. Yeah.
You find somebody in the field doing that, there's a good chance they've got some degree of substance in their system.
Yes.
A lot's going on. At
Yes,
that time.
it is. If you are sunbathing your sphincter, yeah, you got a lot going on there.
But yeah, all of life really is, goes back to what's the average topsoil over the planet. That's it.
Yeah.
Without that, none of us exist.
Yeah.
And the guys that are taking care of the best of it are your farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it is funny, they demonize them so bad. It's they say that we're just destroying it, which I just talked to a guy today. This is pretty neat. They're in Utah, and there is apparently this they consider it like desert ground now, but if they trace the history back, it used to have grass on it that was tall as a horse's back. It was like this lush green, just grassland, and now it's considered desert land. And there's this group of guys, and I think we'll actually be talking to them on the show in a couple weeks, but they are attempting to return this desert ground back to this lush green. And they've got a system they're doing. They're slowly trying to figure out a way to implement some livestock on it and do some things, but their plan is to eventually instead of you looking out and seeing this desert, it's going to be just this lush green of what it once was. Then they go through it. It's like years of this degradation, and their biggest struggle is water because they don't get. I mean, that part of Utah, I don't know that they might get 10 inches of rain a year. So, but it's crazy. Like I don't know, man. I'm just fascinated by. I'm like becoming more of a hippie the older I get. I mean, to say that my hair is down like past my shoulders, but it's just I don't know. It's something about the dirt, about the land that just it like really speaks to you.
I know. I mean, I've talked to you before about cotton.
Yep.
And there's something about a cotton plant. You put that seed in the ground, and you get her up, and then you manage it the whole season. And then this is the time of year where you see the fruit of your labor.
Yeah.
And the best smell, in my opinion, is the fall when you smell defoliant in the air.
I was going to say the defoliant.
So, a couple things. The crops are about done.
Yep.
Hunting season's here.
Yeah.
And football season's.
Yep.
It doesn't get any better than the fall.
I love these crisp, kind of cool mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even, heck, it got up close to
It was hot
90 today, but
Yep.
it was like 59 when I went out this morning.
Oh, that's the best.
Man,
I like the
you
smell.
need a jacket in the morning, and then you have a heat stroke by the afternoon.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, yeah, it's just everything feels right.
I like the smell of a cow pasture. There's people that have come out before and they're like, woo, bang, smell them cows. And I mean, you smell it, you're smelling their shit, basically. But I actually like, I'm not saying I go out like to sniff their piles of crap by any means, but just that I like the smell of like a pasture and stuff around.
If you could make a candle, like a defoliant candle,
A defoliant
or a
candle.
cow manure candle,
Yes.
those would sell.
They would. You would have some people that would put that in there. The defoliant would be funny.
I'm thinking Saturday night when Tennessee's playing Oklahoma and you light that defoliant candle, man, and the harvest moon's up, it's fall in the south.
You're going to be in the mood, man, be in the zone. Yeah.
Yep.
So I got to ask a little bit. So I want to take one detour.
Okay.
So when you were a policeman, two questions. First, did you like writing tickets?
No, and I'll give you a story about that.
All right, I want to hear it.
When the last agency I was with, it wasn't a quota, but they used it as a way to manage the workflow.
Yeah.
And I worked midnight shift, and so it was 11:45 at night to 8 in the morning, and I just didn't like writing tickets.
Yeah.
And so they give me a number to hit, and I hit that number, and I didn't write anymore.
Yeah. Or is it monthly? Is that how they?
It was.
Yeah.
And that's been years ago. I think they did away with all that now. It was like a performance thing, but I hated writing tickets.
Yeah.
I just didn't like it. I thought if I wanted to write a ticket, I'd go work for the Highway Patrol.
Yes.
I did nothing against those guys. They do a great job.
That's all they do.
But I didn't want to do that. And
Yeah.
so I didn't like writing tickets. Yep.
Yeah.
And I actually, I would rather give you a warning.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times you'd have something that would get. Man, look here. I can give you stories about. I remember transporting folks to jail, and hey, look here, man. If you got anything on you that I didn't find, you need to tell me now. Let's get rid of it. If you'll tell me now, we can get rid of it. But if you go in that jail, it goes
felony.
a felony.
Yeah.
And there's even the criminals. They got a heart. The way I always looked at it, that's somebody's daughter or son.
Yeah.
They just made a mistake and got caught or whatever, but man, they're still one of us. And so, and I'll say this: in 15 years, I never had one citizen complaint.
Really?
Never did.
Yeah.
And that's unheard of.
Yeah. Well, you're a nice guy.
Thank you.
I mean, you are genuinely a nice guy. If all cops were like you, I'd have probably a better opinion of life.
And there's a lot of good ones out there. There's
There
just
is.
a few that
There is. And that's what we poke fun at a lot of them. I've got quite a few buddies that are cops.
Oh, yeah.
And they're, man, when I call them, usually I need them a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
I need them. And but the ones we poke at are the ones that get off on writing tickets.
Okay.
Those are the ones that I got a problem with that. And I will tell you, state troopers grind my gears because they just, that's all they do. The man with the big hat. That's what my dad calls him. The man with the big hat. But
Hey, I remember looking at cotton. This has been a few years ago, and I was up in Pill Jerk Bottoms.
yeah,
And I had, you remember Poncho?
Mm-hmm.
I had his son helping me that year scout cotton. And, well, he was sharp. He caught on well. And I've had some good interns throughout the years, and he was a good one. And so we were right there in the Hatchie Bottoms, just south of the prison.
Yeah.
And I heard Poncho talking to Tucker on the phone. I couldn't really hear it, but I knew there was something going on.
Yeah.
And he said, let me talk to Micah. And so he gets me on the phone, and he said, Micah, if you got a pistol? I said, no, sir. He said, well, let me tell you what's going on. And there had been an escaped convict at the prison in Ripley. A lot was going on. And he said, look here. We got on speakerphone this time. He said, Tucker, y'all go by the house. Micah get you a pistol, and you keep that until we figure out what's going on, and just get it. That's the kind of guy Poncho.
Yeah.
You know, just a good old guy. And I said, Sheriff, I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm going to be honest with you, this cotton's not worth that.
So, we'll just come back later.
I'll come back later. So we came back a week later after they'd caught the guy.
Yeah.
And, but that was a wild day.
That is. Micah's like, man, we are coming back. We're going to get some Kevlar. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Check this cotton.
Yeah. We have to check this cotton right now.
Oh, I tell you a story this year. I was looking at some cotton in Loose Hatch River Bottoms, and it was a Monday morning, and there was a red gate, and I pulled the gator right to the gate. I left my phone in the gator, and it had a lock. So I go over there and I put the code in the lock, and the gate, like, it wouldn't open all the way. So I just kind of pushed it.
Yeah.
Well, then it didn't open all the way. I was like, man. So I took a bigger stride than normal, and I took the stride and I pushed it, and then as I turned around to go back to the gator, something told me to look down. And dude, there was I stepped right over a cottonmouth.
Oh,
I
crap.
stepped right over him. And so I was like, well, my phone's in the gator. I was going to take a picture.
Yeah.
I can't do that. She's going to have to believe me. And so I watch him. He swizzles on through and down in the bushes. And I call the farmer and I tell him the story. My heart's racing.
Yeah.
And I said, well, look here, man. I said, let me tell you what I was going to do if it happened. He said, what's that? I said, if that cottonmouth would have bit me, I'd have finished that cotton field first, because I knew I wasn't too far from Methodist North. I was gonna get your cotton field done first, and then go to the hospital. He's like, "No, you wouldn't." I was like, "Yeah, no, I wouldn't." I was going to the hospital.
Yes.
This has been the first year where I've had more encounters with snakes. I was telling that same day, I called Keith.
Yeah.
And I'm coming down Donnell Road from 14 headed south.
Yep.
And as I'm on the phone with him, a snake I ran over it.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're not going to believe I just ran over a snake. And he's like, no way. And so I turned on this other road, and I'm going up underneath 385 to look at another cotton field. And I run over 3 snake encounters in one day.
Dang, man. Jeez.
Yeah. It was a wet spring, and I think that had a lot to do
well,
with it.
Tell you, Loosahachie, because that ground I got in Bolton,
Yep.
some of it could kind of somewhat be Loosahachie ground. And when we're clearing it, man, it's a ton of cottonmouths on there.
Have you smelled them? There's truth to this. I was coming out of a field over toward Galloway. Me and Mason were coming through.
I don't get that close to them. I don't know.
Well, we were in the side-by-side. We had both windows down. We weren't going real fast, and I was like, you smell that? And it smelled like a sour watermelon smell. And I'd always been, and I don't know how true it is, there's a bunch of cottonmouths in that swamp.
Yeah.
But I'd always heard in mating season, that's what their aroma
They put out a smell.
And so
I
we
know.
didn't stay back to look.
Yeah.
I've heard your dad say that a bunch, even about like copperheads. Like you'll smell them.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I've smelled. I got a snake we had a snake in our house one time, and I was going in there. I think I was going in to work out, and I had my dog. We went up in our little workout room, and up in the corner was a big king snake, and it was curled up. It was in the house, and Bear he saw it, and so I got it out of there. But even it had a kind of a stinky smell. But I've never noticed out at Bolton. I've never noticed, but it was some monster cottonmouths. Like, man, they were big as Coke cans.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy. Like, I like a king snake. I'll save them. I don't say I like them. I don't like.
You can tolerate them.
I can tolerate them,
Right.
and if I see them before. If I was like you and I had just stepped over a cottonmouth, I would have hoped I had brown pants on. Because I'd have been, if I get startled by one, I don't like any of them.
I don't like to be surprised.
I have killed a king snake before, and then I feel bad because they're a good snake. But I was right out here one day. I was walking, and it just so happened I had this little hand tiller thing, like it's a push tiller. I don't know why I even had it, but I was like walking through the yard. And I just happened to, and it's funny, our body, you have like this sense.
Yep.
And it's like your spidey senses, and I could tell, and I just looked down, and I was about to step on a king snake, and I just like hit it with that tiller, and then it's a king snake. I felt bad, but and that's
Have you ever
startled
stepped
me.
on a snake? I did that fishing
No.
one day. The grass was tall. I was in a pond. I was walking around fishing, and it's like stepping on a pool noodle. You know the pool noodles?
Yeah, they start
It's just
going crazy.
It just feels funny when you first.
Ugh.
You know you've stepped on something because it's not the same. And I looked down, and it was a black snake. Is all I
Yeah.
remember. And I just remember going that way and never went back.
Yeah.
But if you ever see one and you accidentally step on it, it'll be like a pool noodle.
Mm. Well, I hope I don't do that.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
too.
man, I don't like them. What's the wildest story? What's the wild one? Really, I know that's hard to say. Just tell us a crazy story when you were a cop.
Oh man, there was a vehicle chase, and I remember the guy wrecked his car and took off running. And I remember going after him, and he I guess he thought it was just a little hill he was fixing to jump over, and it was actually a cow pond. And then when he jumped over into that, he wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember getting him out, and he's like, "Man, my shoes." And I wasn't going in there. You ran in there. I said, "Man, you come back and get those shoes when you get out." So I don't know if he ever came back or not, but he ran out of his shoes. He thought he was jumping a hill, and he jumped the hill into a cow pond.
So his shoes got stuck in there.
The cows may be wearing them today. I don't know.
Did you have any crazy close calls?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one that I still remember. A guy, a bail bondsman. A guy had jumped his bond. He hadn't showed up for court, and he came and I remember he met me at the headquarters, and I was like, "Man, I'm gonna go here." He was gonna follow me.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, you can follow, but you need to stay at the end of the road. Let me handle this." And because sometimes our views of doing things, or my view of doing things, and theirs was a little different. And so he stayed back, and I went down this driveway, and I shouldn't have gone all the way down the driveway. I should have walked, but I didn't. And as I get out, I come behind the house. The guy that I'm looking for, he's got this long gun in his hand, and I remember just drawing down, screaming, "Put the gun down!" But
Yeah.
yelling, "Put the gun down! Put the gun down! And you talk about tunnel vision,
Yeah.
just like that, adrenaline rush. And he puts the gun down. And I get him in handcuffs. I give him back to the car, and I go and I carried 46 rounds. I carried three magazines of 15 and one in the chamber.
9mm.
40. And so I counted my rounds in that floorboard of my patrol car. I counted them 3 times.
Yeah.
40, because I thought, man, did I squeeze one off?
Yeah.
So I counted 3 times. It was 46 every time, and then I went back to see what kind of gun it was. You know what kind it was?
What?
It was a wood grain pump BB gun.
Oh gosh.
To me, it looked like a 22.
Yeah.
Or
He was
410.
Was he trying to just intimidate you?
No, I think he was like shooting cans or something, and I
Yeah.
just pulled up on him, and that was bad timing. But I'm
Yeah.
glad he put the gun down because
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to live with that.
Man, and see that's the kind of stuff where that's why I don't blast on cops. Like I said, we like to poke fun at the turds, but cops in general, because you have a split second time to react to life or death.
You have a split second to make a decision that takes months and months for people to critique the decision you made
Yep.
in that split second. And so sometimes the folks say, well, they just sit around in parking lots or run radar. But man, there may be some downtime right there, but you don't know what they just came off of.
Yeah.
Or you don't know what they're fixing to go to. And so, and it's not just police, those fire guys too. Police and fire was kind of like we would poke each other.
Yep.
Behind the doors, but outside the doors, we were together.
Yeah.
And I never will forget a story in Carterville. A buddy of mine who's pretty high up now, they were doing a Fill the Boot campaign at the Kroger Houston Levy and Houston Levy Winchester. And they were in those cheaper Walmart plastic chairs.
Yeah.
And my buddy pulls by them, and he rolls the window down because they're got the boot and they're out there, and he's like, "What's wrong, guys? The lazy boy's too heavy to pull out." Just kind of poking, but
Yeah.
it's all in good nature. But those guys, man, every day in, those are special people. When they put that badge on and they walk out that door, they're not guaranteed to come back home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so I commend them for what they do. I was blessed to I met so many great people in those 15 years and made some connections and met folks that I probably never would have met otherwise. Governors, senators, pro athletes.
Yeah.
And so it's cool stories, But when you start having kids, and it puts a different perception, and I thought, man, it's time to to get back. And I'll never forget, I told a guy one time, I said, yeah, I don't have to worry about anybody shooting me or stabbing me. And he said, you better watch that stabbing part. I said, no, I'm not a police officer anymore. I work in ag, man, a bunch of good guys. And he said, oh, you better watch that stabbing. I said, what do you mean? He said, they'll stab you in the back. I said, oh, well, I can live with that. Yeah. I'm still going home if that happens.
Yeah. So, yeah. Hey, there's a lot in the ag that'll stab you in the back. There definitely is, yeah.
But you know what? I say that you brought that up, and I was in the field about 2 weeks ago, and I was looking at some cotton, and there was one of our the competitors in the area was in the field, and man, we
in
talked,
the same field.
Yes, yeah, he had stopped by to look at something, and man, we talked like me and you talk.
Yeah,
there's some good folks. And
so y'all didn't do like Anchorman? Have you seen the movie Anchorman?
Bits and pieces.
Oh man, dang, he's worse than you, Bobby Lee. Well, in Anchorman, it's the different news channels, and they have like a battle royale. They all meet at this like alley, and they're gonna
talking about meeting up for a fight.
Yeah, they're gonna fight, and they're like, no touching of the hair or face. You're like, oh, and one dude throws a trident and like spears a guy. So they have some pretty brutal fighting.
Wow. We didn't have that.
So y'all didn't. Nobody pulled a trident out or nothing.
We had a good conversation and talked about just general ag stuff that's going on. And,
yeah.
I said, man, have you ever need anything, you holler at me? And he said the same thing, you need anything, you holler at me. And so I think I've been blessed in both the industries that I've worked in. It's some good folks out there in the police world and in the ag world. And there's quite a story. I remember my youngest son, he used to wear me out all the time. Tell me a police story, Daddy. Tell me a police story. And you know, he's a kid. Mm-hmm. And some of these stories he don't need to hear.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of these stories adults don't need to hear, and I'll never share them, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd always tell him something like, well, you know, one time I stopped this lady, and going down Poplar Avenue, and it was her and her husband, and they didn't have their seatbelts on. I wrote my ticket. And that's not the story he wanted to hear. You know? I told you a police story. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And that's the thing that I've actually heard guys say that they think being a cop is harder than being a soldier, because they said when you're a soldier, you're in a war zone.
Yep.
When you're a cop, you're just out and about in your town.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, you might go, you do this one call and you have 10 normal stops, and then the 11th one dude just happens to have a shotgun heading in the doorway.
Yeah.
And
not to these agencies have gotten really good about this. Like I said, I've been gone now 15 years, but the last few years, the last 10 years, there were a few incidents that occurred, and where I worked at before, they would bring you in.
Yeah.
I mean, and we would sit in a group.
Like your debriefing thing or
Yeah,
something?
man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
These guys are seeing stuff day in and day out. And if they're not getting debriefed and they're going home, that's why the divorce rate and the alcohol abuse is so high, is they're not getting dealt with like they need to. And so I think that's changing. I know it's changing, especially if you're like in an officer-involved shooting. There's groups that will come and reach out, and just because we're all human, man.
Yep.
And we deal with things different. And I'll tell you a story. I was at I got what they call crisis intervention training, and the Memphis PD puts it on. It's world renowned. Yeah. Folks from all over the country come to their training.
Really?
It's top notch. And I don't remember exactly how it got started. There was a lot of police homicides that they just didn't know about mental illness, and so we were like, I don't know, day 3 or 4, we went to I think it's called MMHI, or it may have changed the name now, and there was pods, and you could see through the glass of another pod, and man, all hell broke loose in the next pod. And there were some Shelby County guys there, and there's some Memphis guys, and there was me and another guy from Collierville there, and they were all jump up and go over there, and the nurse like, are you going? I was like, out of my jurisdiction. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
They had it under control anyway.
Yes.
But, it's I'll tell you somebody else that's another group that's on somewhat of the front line, the teachers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are. Yeah, they definitely are.
My wife's in that world, and
there he goes.
Man,
see that chair?
The chair. Hey, we made it over an hour before it.
Peter, my preacher, we do a podcast here with my preacher.
Yes.
Yep. And he did. He recorded the whole episode. It never went down.
Yeah.
You just ain't living quite right. So he did the whole episode.
Well, about 40 minutes in, I was like, man, it's like this thing hadn't lost altitude yet. And then, hour and 3 minutes in, it got
And you
me.
start going.
Yep.
Remember that comment you made about dirt?
Yeah, he's getting closer.
You're going back to the dirt.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah, man. Well, where do you see before we get done with this episode, Mike? I got to ask you, like, we got a lot of guys, like we were saying off air, that listen and they're like, man, I want to be a farmer, and we encourage them because I mean, hell, it's no surprise or no shock. Prices are terrible. I mean, I make like jokes about going broke, which I really hope I don't go broke. I'm trying, obviously, and I don't feel like I will, but it doesn't mean it ain't hard years. Right. I'm in some times where it's going to be some tough survival, and I think there will be some guys that probably ain't going to survive it. And so it's like, man, when people, because I'm having people ask me right now, man, I want to be a farmer, what do I need to do? And I'm like, you need to marry a rich gal, like, but so I encourage people to think outside the box and not necessarily, all right, don't just become a row crop farmer. Look at growing this or that, or find a passion in the ag sector.
Yes, sir.
And so, like, what would your advice be in that?
Man, the ag industry is the second, unless it's changed, it's the second largest industry in the world behind the medical field. So there's a lot of opportunities, and it's the company I'm with. We just got a new. I say new. He's been here for about 6 months. He's 22 or 23, and I tell him every day, man, you got in at the perfect time. You got in at the perfect time, and so when you get in the door, you may have to take a job. It's not what you want, but if you'll get in there and work, if you want it, you'll get it. Yeah. The key is just to get in the door, and it may be it might be the lowest job on the totem pole, but if you're just in the door, you got a good work ethic, you don't mind working long hours, you don't mind doing what it takes to get the job done with a good attitude, you'll climb. And sometimes man, there's so many opportunities. You can get on different search groups and find,
there's there's a website on like
agcareers.com.
Michael looks at it often. Just kidding.
And then there's LinkedIn. You can get on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then there's I don't know what area that a lot of these guys are asking, but there's like I know there's a group at the Agri Center that it's a Memphis Agriculture Club or something like that. And so whatever you're in, reach out to the local man. Just stop by and cold call. Yeah. Stop by, man. When I was doing the biostimulant seed treatment, I was just cold calling. Mm-hmm. I was going all over West Tennessee and Boot Hills, Missouri. I went to one guy's shop out toward Whiteville and gave him a business card, and he said, "We don't have phones." And so I said, "Man, that's not a problem at all." So I took that business card and I wrote my home address, and I said, he knew of kind of what I was selling. Yeah. And so I said, "Just write me a letter." Yeah. And so he would write me a letter about once a month. Really? And would order stuff. I would get it, take it out there, and that's how. That's wild. I say that to say, if you want in the industry, just work. Just go out there and cold call. Go to these industries and introduce yourself. Yeah. And bring a resume and tell them you don't mind where you start. You just want to start. I feel like that's one thing about ag that's different from other industries. And I was actually just talking to. Well, he's a cousin. He's one of my wife's cousins, so I guess he's my cousin. But we were talking yesterday about this, and he's been involved in ag industry in a different part of the sector there. But he was telling me, like, the guys, even in the IT department of ag, he said they have like this work ethic that's different. And he said it's like he said it like matches the farmers. He said they're in the industry with the farmers, and he said they all are like the farmers. Yeah, let me give you a story. When I was with the specialty, I'd hired a driver, and so with our corporate headquarters being so close, I thought, man, we'll just go down there and handle all the paperwork. That way it's all done and we can come on back. And so we get on the elevator and we go, I think, to the second floor. I can't remember. And get your business taken care of. We get back on. The company CEO, president, I'll never forget this, was on the elevator. I knew it was him because I saw his name tag. Yeah. And he was talking to a guy about windshield wipers. I still remember this. And so as the elevator door shuts, he immediately stops his conversation with another guy that works at the corporate level. It's pretty high. And starts talking to me and this driver like we're talking. Yeah. That speaks volumes for a company. When someone that high up still I feel like our company's special. Yeah, you got chain of command, but I think once you meet our chain of command, when you leave the meeting, you'll be like, I think we're on.
Yeah.
It's just, and when you said that about IT, I can see that.
Yep.
Because most our company, I know the best. That's the way it is. It's like a bunch of farmers. We're all good old folks. We just have different titles. And I tell people all the time, if let's say you want to do logistics, we got that.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to do IT, we got that. Let's say you want to do regulatory, we got that.
Yeah.
Whatever you're thinking, we got it in the ag. It's in the ag industry, and so it's just kind of my advice would be update that resume.
Yeah.
And get out there and make contacts. And don't be afraid to go introduce yourself to somebody.
Is a college degree necessary?
It depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
In some fields, like what I do, it is.
Yeah.
But there's other fields within there that it's not required. So it's just kind of, if you want in the industry, don't think, well, I don't have a college degree, I can't. That's not true.
Yeah.
If you want in the industry, you can get in the industry.
Yeah.
You just got to do a little work on the back end and pay off on the front end. And so don't be afraid to go introduce yourself. And let's say you're out of high school, that's okay. We've got folks that are out of high school that work for us, and those guys are running them $500,000 spreaders across the field. And they're working their tails off. And,
I think sometimes I'm like, man, I could reduce a lot of stress. Wouldn't have to be worried about this machines of mine. I can just go run somebody else's.
That's right. A little easier to run.
Yeah, get paid. If it breaks down, call somebody, come fix this thing.
Man, I'll tell you a story about one of our guys. He was in these bottoms up here a few years ago, and the air went out.
Oof.
And it was like June.
Yeah. Was he spreading?
Yes.
Oh, no windows open.
No.
But maybe the back, but you can't leave that open.
He had done got down to his underwear, and the grower pulled up and was like, man, what are you doing? He's like, my air went out. Yeah. So I tell you, the grower called up and said, man, y'all need to get this guy's air fixed.
Yeah.
So
he was like, I don't want to see him in his underwear again.
But that goes back to, exactly. But
I don't want him cutting any corners because he's trying to get down.
Yes.
But that goes back to, if you want in the industry, these guys just work.
Yeah.
We got a short window to get a lot done.
I feel like today there is so many opportunities because one, we have this thing of people that don't want to work.
Yep.
We got a lot of that. But then, I feel like that's made the opportunity for people that are willing to work, like,
it's there.
Substantial.
Yep. And don't forget the old handshake, get in their face. Man, I tell my sons all the time, manners will get you further in life than any paper.
Yeah.
If you can say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, thank you, please, those key words will carry you more than any degree will ever carry you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying, all right, you're a vet. I'm not saying, well, if he just got good manners, he could be a vet. Well, no, he probably needs to go to school and get that. But what I'm saying is those will carry you. And let's say let's say me and him both are vets, and my manners aren't good, but Bobby Lee's is good. Now, who do you think they're going to remember?
Yeah.
They're going to remember Bobby Lee. He said
they
yes,
might
sir.
remember you, but they're going to remember not to go to you.
That's
Like, let's go to this
right,
other guy. This other guy's an ass.
And so you need to be a team player because you're working on teams. So I still think you just get out there and don't be afraid to shake hands, introduce yourself, and network. That's the big thing, network. Just network. And if it doesn't happen, then don't get frustrated. Just keep digging. Just keep, like on, what was that, Nemo, when Doris said, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep digging. You'll get there.
Yeah, man, that's I agree. I mean, that's how, and that's what farming for me is, in these bad years. I'm like, and because I'm a guy that I weigh the worst case scenario. Like I just can't help it. Like I gotta envision the worst case scenario. And I'm like, worst case scenario, I just gotta basically rebuild. If all hell like breaks loose and I'm just come way out, I'm like, well, just basically start back over. But I mean, this is what I do.
But you just don't have no quit in you.
No, I don't.
Tell Hudson, my youngest, all the time, you have a dog in you.
Yeah.
And whether it's in sales or precision ag or farming at the end or baseball, I was using his analogy in baseball. I said, you have a dog in you. You got to never be satisfied. You got to want.
Yeah.
And I think if you'll take that into work, you'll be fine. But you got to have that dog.
Yeah. And that's a superpower today. So, I was trying to think if there's anything else we could hit on there. What do you see? Do you see any big changes coming in the ag pipeline? I mean, you see anything crazy coming down?
and I think we're all kind of waiting on the dicamba label to see where that goes to.
I feel like it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this: I went to a field day in Scott, Mississippi, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And their crops looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they said not 1 ounce of dicamba was sprayed on the farm this year.
Really?
And so
They've managed like with pre-emerge.
Yep, that's the key. Stack them pre's. And I think Dr. Steckel's been
He
preaching that
has,
for the last
yep.
few years. And so, man, I know it's high, but we have a lot of guys this year that didn't spray any dicamba. They went Liberty.
Well, I'll tell you, I know some dudes are weird about sharing what they use, which that's one of the things that I see. That's some of the stuff that kind of irks me a little bit in the community when some guys are real secretive. If you're like going for record yields, I get it. You got to protect your secret sauce. But if you're just growing crops, like why not share the wealth? And so I learned this year, one of the things I like to do is I would historically plant green, and then I'd spray. Typically, I would come in immediately and spray Sharpen and Roundup. And I would spray an ounce of Sharpen right behind the planter, 32 ounces of Roundup. And then I'd have a seed oil of some sort in there as well. And so I experimented this year. I did some Gramoxone right behind the planter, and I had like Boundary in there. And man, the Gramoxone did not do very well. Sharpen and Roundup, it will do so well that I can eliminate a spraying. Like a lot of guys burn down, and then they come in and then they spray a pre-emerge, and then they spray a post-emerge, and then they spray a fungicide. If I time it right, I can come in, I can plant green. Now again, you got it. And I had a guy message me, listens to the show, and he got behind. He was not able to spray. And he messaged me and he was like, man, I've never done this green planting thing, but I've heard you talk about it. You got any tips? And I was like, you need to grab your balls because you're about to go in. I was like, you got to just be ready. I said, man, you set the planter where like, all right, this is where it ought to be. And you basically quit looking because you'll drive yourself crazy because you'll have some beans on top of the ground. Like you'll be constantly adjusting. You got to just go for it. But if you do it just right, you can spray Sharpen, and I'm sure other areas people are in. I don't know the main ingredient. You know the main ingredient in Sharpen?
Off the top of my head.
It's some long word, I think. But Sharpen and Roundup and a seed oil behind the planter, and it will scorch that earth.
Are you putting an insecticide in?
Nope.
You're not?
No, I haven't used an insecticide in 2 years. I bought some this year, and I actually brought it back the other day. I think I used it on maybe 2 farms.
I know some guys they'll put an insecticide on those cover crops.
Yep.
But you talk about, it's funny you bring that up. Scout and cotton this year, I've got one grower that we've only sprayed for plant bugs one time.
Really?
Yeah, and I feel like, which we stay on top of it every week. We're in there, and so it just seems like some fields this year didn't require as many. And I don't know the scientific reason. I got my own reasons. But, and part of my reason, I think, is those early wet springs. It not only greened up the cotton, but it greened up the ditches. And I'm not so sure they didn't stay in the ditches. And then in a lot of our varieties, this Thrive-On technology, it never checks up. You can plant it, and you can turn your head and go plant your beans. So thus far, we have not sprayed for Thrips and Thrive-On, and it's saved a plant bug spraying, if not more than one. Yeah. And so that we haven't used as many insecticides this year.
Well, that's like I said, I haven't put down really much insecticide in 2 years. But that's how, man. I'm telling you, next year I'm going to go pretty much back to my, unless I somehow, I am going to start experimenting more with the cover crop roller crimping it and trying to even, maybe eliminate that burn down pass. And if I can get that mat of dead cover, then it'll shield it. And I mean, the problem that I'm seeing is, I don't know how you can completely, because I'd love to completely eliminate herbicide. Like the hippie part of me would love to completely eliminate that. But I don't know how you can eliminate that post-emerge application.
Yeah, with a get those pre's down.
But see, I'm saying if you weren't going to apply any herbicide, like if you came in and you got that, because I've planted in some wildly thick cover crop, And that's why I commend Case IH, man. Them red planters, you can plant through concrete with them things. But I've had a mat so thick. I mean, I've had a mat so thick before come harvest, it was still a solid mat right there. And the field would be just pristine clean in there, like nothing is there.
You know, and I think that's probably one of those deals where it's a case by case. Like we talked earlier, I don't know if we were recording or not, but we had such a dry fall.
Yep.
So we had a lot of cover crop that really didn't do what it needed to do.
Yep.
This year, I feel like on the pattern we're on, our cover crops are probably going to come up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moisture in the ground, and so going into spring, you should have a better stand of cover crop, so to say, than what you would have on a dry fall. And I'll tell you something else that we've talked about this morning. Some of these residuals, you got to remember that plant back.
Yeah.
There's some talk about some products that may be coming down the pipe for this fall and winter planting, and you got to know what you sprayed back in the spring.
Really?
Because you may not be able to plant some of these things that they're talking about doing. So
I had some stuff get my pumpkins.
Oh boy.
I planted pumpkins where I had sweet corn. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I guess it was probably atrazine. I think atrazine has affected my pumpkins.
I think sometimes we spray in the spring, we cut our crop,
yeah,
and then we think we can move on, but we got to go back and keep good records and remember what we sprayed.
Yeah,
because those plant backs, they're in that label for a reason. Man, the label's the law.
Yeah,
I went from enforcing the law on the police side, and now I carry a lot of the certifications and stuff for our store.
Yeah,
and in every, let's see, it's category 12, 4-1, and the AGE license. Every one of those exams is a label in there, and that label's the law.
Yeah.
And so if somebody asks you a question, you better give them what's on the label. But that plant back stuff,
yeah,
it's in that label for a reason.
Yep.
You better check it.
Yeah, somebody planted pumpkins back here, and they're like, damn, what the hell's wrong with my plant?
That's right. But you get busy, you
Yep.
get going, and life's
Yep.
so fast, and so it's an honest mistake. But if you can kind of remember, go back. If you're going to plant pumpkins, let's go back and make sure we didn't put something down that,
Yeah.
that will hinder our pumpkin. How are they doing other than
Man, that dry month of August put a hurting on them.
Yeah.
They just ain't. I looked at them today. They ain't very good. I mean, we'll get enough for us and the kids and probably some of our family.
Okay.
So we'll have a little bit, but it ain't much of a patch to it.
How was your sweet corn?
Sweet corn was really good. It did really good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was great.
No coon problems or deer?
I had a little coon problem, but I had so much corn, it just didn't matter. It just made me mad when I'd be going through there because it'd be a... Tell you what I had a lot of, I had some earworms, and these are BT earworm resistant. But, you know, they have to eat a little bit of it for it to mess them up.
That's right.
But I did 2 patches. I did an early patch and a late patch. The late patch was rampant with them things. And I guess probably because at that point there was not really any other sweet corn. And so they had just come to it. And, oh, man, it would make me so mad, which when I cook sweet corn, I cut the top off and the bottom off. And I'd have some people that would come and buy sweet corn from me, and they would like peel back the top, and the very top would have a worm in there, and be like, oh no, and they'd like put it back, and I'm like, well, you cut that off, and
That's
they're like, oh no, I don't want that. And I'm like,
worm.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. You say it's protein. I'm selling you corn and giving you protein
Yes.
as well. It's a win-win, right?
Yes, yeah.
I'm not going to charge you for the worm.
Yeah, I'm giving you that for free.
That's right.
That's like the tequila with the worm in the
That's
bottom.
right.
Right?
Oh, yeah, just don't eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, man. It's interesting. Do you ever do any sampling on your cow pastures?
I have. That's what it's kind of a sore subject with me. I've been trying to get lime spread for about 3 or 4 years.
Oh man.
And I'm bad about it. I have not stayed on them, but I mean, I'm kind of the oddball. You know, they're spreading on all this crop ground, and then I've got
All those damn row crop farmers.
well, and they're always like, well, they're like, yeah, well, when we're in that area, we can get some spread. And I'm like, now, you understand, and they know, like, this ground is not crop ground for a reason. And it's rough. And
It probably dries out faster too than some lower areas.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
probably
No, you can get over it.
Well, you brought that to my. I'll address that tomorrow. I'll see what the status is on that and get back to y'all on
Well,
that. And so
I remember
now's the time before they get really going
Yep.
with those row crop guys.
Yep.
And so,
Because I hadn't hounded them about it in a while, but I remember where I was. I was actually in Las Vegas at a veterinary convention. This was in 2020 because it was right before the world shut down.
Yeah.
And they called and said, hey, we're going to bring that lime. I was like, okay. I said, I'm out of town. And I said, I'll get my dad to go by there and lock the gate. He'll leave it dummy locked for y'all. I'm still waiting.
We got a lime truck that's been riding around for years looking for. Maybe he just don't know where to go.
yeah, he's been lost. That poor dude, man. Yeah,
he went to Vegas and then come back. I don't know what's going on.
You can get lost going to his place, man. I used to when we did have row crop on it.
And this wasn't even on my home place.
Well, that's true. That's down the road.
I probably need to check it again. I had lime spread there.
I hated driving a semi in on your home place though, because that dang, I'm
the end of a dead end road and it's narrow.
It's a narrow little bitty road, and then there's like a cliff drop off, and a tree juts out on this other side. So I'm taking a semi with a 40-foot trailer, and I'm having to like run the front tire off the cliff here, and I'm like, man, I hope it's a good crop in here. Hope it's worth it.
Yeah, you talked about liming a pasture. I'll give you a story. When I was doing biostimulants, I don't know exactly the location, but it was like an island, and the government had put some cows or something. Well, anyway, they left. They hadn't come back to get the cattle yet, but that was on their radar. Well, they noticed that when they came back, the cows looked healthy. They looked healthier than when they were feeding them.
Huh.
And so like, man, what's up with this? And so what they were doing, they noticed that when the tide would go down, those cows were eating seaweed.
Really?
And so there's some truth to this biostimulant stuff.
Yeah.
It works. And so I say that to say, you need to get your pH right on your
Yeah, I bet the
cow farm
pH
for
is
sure.
high as crap in seaweed, ain't it? Or what would it be?
Man, I think it's different for different types of seaweed. That's a whole nother.
So is seaweed good for them?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it was there. Yeah, and so there's actually some mineral blocks that have seaweed extract and stuff in it. And so,
wow.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. And so those biostimulants it's new.
Yeah.
But it works.
Is that like the worm tea?
Oh, sometimes people call it panther piss.
Yeah.
You talking about panther?
I don't know. Worm tea is where they've taken they basically take, I don't know how they get it. I guess it's like the soil and then the earthworm crap, and they take it and they make it into like a liquid.
Oh,
and you can spray that on your ground. It's supposed to give you that. I don't know. What is the panther piss?
Man, that's kind of like an old gig at the,
Add it.
Yeah, but it works. But I think the key thing is the timing.
Yeah.
Like for that, you want to be around that reproductive stage.
Well, this was, man, where I was listening to like Extreme Ag or something, and they were talking about this stuff. Or no, it was some podcast, and the guy was talking about, it may have been, I listen to Cover Crop Strategies sometimes, but this guy was making his own, and it had all the bacteria in it that's good.
The good stuff.
And but he would go and he'd get it made, but he had to spray it within like 48 hours because it'll die. It dies in there. And so he would go and pick up like 1,000 gallons or whatever and go, and he would be spraying everything. He would have to literally go home and just spray nonstop.
Oh, to get it before it died, I guess.
And it was a real, and I thought it was a biostimulant. I thought that's what he said.
That's a big realm of thing, and so it's new, but it's not new.
Yeah.
And so it does work. The key though is timing, putting it down at the right time. I mean, you talked a couple maybe a month or two ago about timing, and we talked about the current commodity price.
Yeah.
After our conversation, we both agreed. So timing and everything's got to line up.
Yeah.
And like on that, what we talked about, stuff just wasn't lining up, and it didn't make economical sense to do it at the time. And I'm glad. I hope you're glad. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we made a good decision on that. So.
Yeah, because the prices still ain't looking too grand.
No, we don't need, and so all of our conversation when we talk about biostimulants and things, and your hay and row crops and different things, it all boils back, in my opinion, to one thing: is soil samples.
Yeah,
those soil tests. And getting it done right.
And it works because y'all pulled samples on mine later, and I think my stuff was good.
Yep.
Because this is I don't know how many years now. I mean, this company that they do the total farm thing, and I always kind of felt as like, it's a little royalty because y'all said I was the first total.
Yes, sir.
In that
whole farm.
Yeah,
you're our first whole farm guy.
And so, but I've been in it for several years now, and I know. I had some lime issues, and I finally addressed it our pH issues, and we put some lime on some farms this year, and then y'all did some soil samples for me here, or tissue samples, and like, hell, I think you said it was good.
Everything was good.
Yeah. So I'm expecting 120 beans on everything.
Well,
you know,
that's
maybe
the bar seems
160.
low. I was thinking we'd go higher, but if
Yeah,
you're 120,
yeah.
I'm satisfied.
I was being conservative.
I know you were.
Yeah, being conservative. Yeah, you know. So, Micah, it's been fun having you on the show, man.
Blast. We'll do it again, and I'll
We
bring
definitely
some of
will.
my counterparts with me, and it'll be fun. It's been fun, and like I say, if you ever ask me a question and I don't know the answer, I know who to call, and I'd like to bring some of those folks that I know to call on here too. And I think
we got to
you
get
and
a few
your
more on
listeners-
here.
Yeah, you and your listeners will benefit from them.
Yeah.
Because you're a firsthand account witness that it works.
Yep.
And so.
Yep. Well, that's
Thanks.
what, man. Yeah, like I said, we appreciate you
Thank
coming. I
y'all
know
for
you got.
having me.
We could keep going, but I know you got a long drive ahead of you,
Just
so
a
we
little
won't keep
bit.
you out too
And-
late.
And my wife told me, she said, last time you were out late, Hudson doesn't go to bed till you get home. And so he had just called a while ago, and it's 10:18.
Okay.
I know he's not going to bed till I get home.
Yeah. How old is he?
13, just turned
Okay.
13.
Yep. That's cool,
I
man.
got
That's
two.
cool.
He's 13, and my oldest is 21, and so
Dang, 21.
Yeah.
Man. Dang, you getting old.
yeah. I'll tell you a real quick funny story. I'm a twin.
Yeah.
And my brother is 10 minutes older than me. And growing up, when I was 12 and he turned 13, I'm a teenager. I can bully you, so
Yeah.
to say. But now the wheels have turned. Now when he hits Social Security, I can say, "You're old. I'm still."
Yeah, I'm still,
I'm still
I'm
60
still
right
thriving,
now.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Shoot us a message. I know, go to talkdirtpodcast.com. Send us a message on there. If you got a question for Micah, man, I can pass that along to him, and let me know. I mean, he'd be happy to talk to any of you. And
If they have a question about soil samples in their area, just reach out to you and you holler at
Yep.
me, and
Yep.
we can get it covered.
For sure. Y'all let me know. Like I said, go to talkdirtpodcast.com, submit your questions there, and we'll get that to him. Then you can check out.
Check out agzaga.com. Y'all know that. Check out all the good stuff. You never know what I get emails from. I don't know. They don't bombard you once, twice a week.
Yeah.
New products coming on all the time. Yeah, no matter what you find there, the best news. Use that discount code.
Talk Dirt. All caps, all one word. I almost forgot real quick. We need to do our American Made company.
Yeah. I'll fire up the man.
We're going to put Mike on the spot.
We start off with 2 words. Made in America.
There's you 2 words, Micah. Made in America.
Yeah, it's 2 in there somewhere.
That's right. That's right. It's at least 2.
It's
Yeah.
at least 2.
You got a Made in America product or company or brand that you'd like to shout out? We like to do this every episode.
Didn't give you any heads up.
Yeah, we do not give heads up. We like to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well.
And we make it broad there. Yeah. Oh, what the Jim Beam?
Yep, Made in America, right?
It is.
Yep,
It is.
Let's put them on the spotlight then.
Right there in Kentucky.
It is. And I tell you, it's good bourbon. I don't drink a lot of Jim Beam, but I like the Devil's Cut.
Devil's good.
Have you done the bourbon tour?
I have not. My dad has done they've been through the Jim Beam distillery where they get to, I think put the wax or whatever on their own bottle and do all that. But no, have you done the trail?
No, I have not. I've got some friends that have.
I want to. I want to do it. Yeah. But yeah, well, Jim Beam, you can't go wrong with that. We are fans of the
Made in
bourbon on the show.
America. All
Made
right.
in America. I mean, there's not much more American than bourbon.
No, that's
Yes.
you go anywhere in the world. If you want bourbon, it's coming from America.
It is. That's right. All right, guys. Micah, thanks again, brother.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
We will catch y'all next week.